Okay, welcome to the Educating Earthlings podcast. My name's Lexi, or Earthling Lex, and we have Desiree here, and she is a former neuroscience researcher, public health professional who's deeply passionate about the intersection of science, policy, holistic health. And she is part of the Postpartum project. Is this something that you had started yourself, or is it like a group of people that you started it with?
Yeah, I actually came on really early into the beginning of it, and I started as an intern, and now I'm the director of operations.
So cool. It's a nonprofit. Can you kind of describe just like a little bit about what the Postpartum Project does and what it's all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really working on bridging the gaps in care between postpartum families and rural communities. And so we help bring postpartum doulas free of charge to families in rural communities. And we also host like educational events, trainings for doulas, and parent support groups. So we're really about just bridging that gap in care.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, so as you guys know, my listeners know, I like to weave in human design with my interviews. So Desiree is a manifesting generator with emotional authority, which means that she moves pretty fast and she's able to kind of like have her toes dipped in a few different things at the same time. Like she has actual energy for all of these things. So, yeah, we are about to dive into some postpartum care, systemic change in maternal health, and the ethical future of integrative medicine. So, first, I kind of want to like have our listeners get to know you. So your career path is seems to be like multi-dimensional, neuroscience, public health, nutrition, and now law. This is like very spot on for your manifesting generator energy. What's the common thread that kind of ties all of these together?
I would say just really helping people. That's like always been my biggest passion is to help people in the most productive way that I possibly can. Like when I first got into neuroscience, I just loved the multifaceted aspect of it. I could really do anything with it and I could help people in so many different ways. And as I moved through my educational career, things have just kind of shifted and changed in ways that I could like make real change and help as many people as possible. So I would say that that's like the common thread is helping as many people as I can.
I love that. That's so cool. So, what led you to focus specifically on postpartum care now, and why do you think this stage of life is often overlooked in healthcare systems?
Yeah, it was really becoming a mom myself. It was while I was pregnant. That's when I learned about the postpartum project. I was looking for an internship for my master's of public health program, and I was connected with the founder of the nonprofit. And we just kind of figured out how we were going to do it while I was navigating postpartum, not like overextending myself. And it just felt so like right. And I felt so aligned and called to like really help moms and families thrive during this period. Sorry, what was your second question?
Oh, in the system, like why do you had mentioned kind of like this stage of like pregnancy is often overlooked in the healthcare systems. And like the question was kind of like why? Is
Oh,
there,
yeah.
like maybe conspiracy type of like agenda
Yeah.
underlining thing, or just kind of like lack of knowledge and stuff like that too. So,
Yeah, I would say it was really the big shift that especially American culture made going from like women-centered birth and pregnancy to more of like a male-centered and dominated field. When we made that shift, we really just forgot about mothers. Midwives were huge up until about the mid 1900s. And then that's when doctors started to really take over. That's when women started to give birth on their backs, when midwives were kind of just
mm,
casted to the side. And as a result of that, and also as a result of the pandemic, we've really just shifted away from caring about women, caring about their time after they give birth, after they've left the hospital. And so we see this huge gap in care, and it really just has to do with like lack of knowledge, but also lack of community. We've shifted really far away from community centered care where you would like, oh, the mothers would be together and they would like go to the park together, or like generational living would be a really big thing after you had a child. And we've just kind of
mm.
gotten rid of that based on like the economy and policy reform, and just really shifting away from caring about women and having women be the center of it to letting doctors run it. So that's like I feel like the big disconnect we're seeing today.
That's kind of like very unfortunate. I was a nanny for the longest. I went to school for early childhood ed. I taught kindergarten in like a public school, and immediately after, it was actually a school that had gotten closed down right away because of like embezzlement type of things were happening. But so I kind of was like looking for something else and I started nannying more like private with families. And when I had first started, this was like 2014, 15, there was like a lot of nanny communities where like we would just hang out with the kids and like go do field trips together and like meet at the park and do all of these like nanny group type of things. And now, especially like since, 2020 and like even just a little bit leading up to that, I saw like less and less like nannies and moms like hanging out together. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. From your experience, what are some of the biggest misconceptions about maternal health and postpartum care that you wish more people would understand?
I'd say one of the biggest one is the recovery period. A lot of people forget about the physical recovery that women have to go through, regardless if they had a natural birth or they had a C-section. You still have a dinner plate sized wound inside of you that has to physically heal. And due
Mm,
to the lack of like family time and maternity leave and paternity leave, women are kind of really forced back into the workforce without also taking care of the physical recovery. I would say another really big one is the huge hormonal shift that happens in women after you have a child. Your hormones take roughly 2 years to regulate back out. Whether you are breastfeeding or you're not breastfeeding can prolong that, can make it harder. And the lack of maternity leave also dictates like if women breastfeed for longer or if they give up on their breastfeeding journey. And so, yeah, the physical recovery is so often overlooked, and it's so important that people really need to start paying more attention to. Another one would be that your care team extends beyond just you and your OB. Midwives and doulas are great support systems. Midwives are the medical intervention. They can help deliver babies. They can do prenatal appointments and postnatal appointments and the baby's first appointment. Doulas are really there for like the emotional help. They're going to help advocate for you as the mother during labor, before labor, and postpartum. And that's really important to have an integrated care team and not just think of just you and your OB and that's all that it is. Another thing that's really, really overlooked is that we have one appointment 6 to 8 weeks postpartum, and that's all women get. Healing is not a linear journey. We need care to not just be preventative, but we need follow ups in order to really prevent long term implications like postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, and what those can play and the disruptions that those can cause in the family dynamic, not just in the mother.
mm. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the family dynamic too, because that can be huge. Even just like adding a whole nother human into the family, like not only adding a whole nother human into the family, but like the mother is not kind of like in her natural normal, I guess, flow of her hormones. What do you see? I wanted to like have you expand a little bit on like the hormone shifts postpartum and kind of like how women come back to more of their natural cycle. And so I'm curious to hear what that experience would be like for a mother.
So I can just really attest to like my personal experience and those that I've
Hmm.
heard around me. Every woman's natural cycle returns at a different rate. For me, it wasn't until almost 11 months postpartum that I finally got a cycle back in. But aside from like the physical bleeding aspect of your cycle, your hormones make a huge shift in your body. Like when I was first freshly postpartum, my baby could look at me and I would just start crying. I'm like, oh, she's
Mm.
so beautiful. This is so overwhelming. Like, or and then sometimes like she would be crying and I would just be happy. I'm like, the sound of her crying, why am I happy right now? Like, or maybe I'm
Oh, I'm like
overwhelmed and
getting
she's sleep.
goosebumps. That's so cute.
Yeah, so it's like your emotions are just so heightened in that beginning period. It's really crazy. And then as things start to taper out, they do start to balance, but you can still feel like the physical aspects of your hormone imbalance, whether it's like sweating and body odor are huge
Hmm.
postpartum. And a lot of that has to do with like those hormone imbalances. And your body also is really getting used to like the baby being outside of you. The baby still thinks it's part of you for almost the first year, and your body still thinks that you and the baby are one. So it takes a really long time for your hormones to shift out. And then some women have a different experience, especially the more children you have, your natural cycle will return a lot quicker. And if you're not breastfeeding, typically your cycle will start to return quicker. So yeah, the
Mm.
hormone change is like something you've never felt. I went off an IUD about a year before we started trying to get pregnant, and it took a long time for me to come back in tune with my body. but I've never felt anything like that hormone shift when you have a kid. It's just like
Wow.
taking a whole pack of hormonal birth control in one day and then being like, holy crap,
Oh my
like
God.
strap in.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Before we kind of get into like what you do, I wanted to touch on quickly your human design energy and like tie it in a little bit to like what you're doing and how you're using your energy in a complementary way. So you're a manifesting generator and you're designed to follow your passions, responding to that sacral, like, yes. Oh, cute little doggy. You have a
Oh
doggy in
yeah.
the back.
Yeah.
I do too. He's a shepherd pit mix.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
he's
she's
like
a Eastern Shepherd and Lab.
oh, okay, distraction, sorry. Um
She can't make up her mind if she wants to like be in here or be out with the baby.
oh, oh. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me
Yeah.
today for sure. Yeah, so following that like sacral energy, so like, for your passion, that like hell yes type of energy, and then also pivot when needed. So manifesting generators are slightly different from pure generators. Like you might have like a lot of like pending open projects going, like even if it's just like personal, like DIY type of like household or like things like that. And that's so fine. Like that's very natural and normal for you. For manifesting generators, it can be like helpful to have somebody you can kind of like pass those along to or be like, "Oh, I'll just like pick it up when I feel like it later." Like honoring the pivot is very important. Like you don't have to keep doing the thing if you're not like lit up by it anymore. How do you think like that pivot energy while following your passions has played out in your career? I can kind of like see just like your background of like the flow of things that you've gone through. How has that played out and has it ever been like a slight struggle with feeling like too multi-passionate?
So I would say for like a long time it was really hard to for me to like allow myself to dip into all these different boxes, and I kind of really boxed myself in from like the time I was, I don't know, like 5 or 6. I wanted to be a doctor, and that's like what drove me to go into neuroscience. Like I knew the end goal was to be a doctor. And it was probably around like right before I graduated from college where I really like made that first pivot where I was like, I no longer feel like the medical system is aligned with what I'm looking to do. And so now I'm gonna like try something else. That's when I started to like look into more holistic medicine. I was gonna be a naturopathic doctor, so it was like not conventional medicine. I got into medical school in Arizona. And then I met my partner. He was like the first person who ever asked me, like, what do you really want to do? And that was just like such a personal question that I never really considered. I just felt like I was doing everything for everyone else. I made like a whole 360. I was like, I'm never not going into medicine. I think that this is too much of a controlled field. I won't be able to help people the way that I want to. And I started doing public health, and my public health degree was kind of just like a Hail Mary. It was like, I know I need to do something different. I don't really know what I want to do. I don't really know how to not do school because that's all I've ever thought about. And in that, it like expanded my passion. Like, oh, wow, I can love policy and I can love reform and I can love nonprofits. And it was just so many different things that I could try. But I still like hard headed and like, oh, I have to go into some form of medicine. And so I started my nutrition degree, which I have 1 semester left of, and then I'll have my master's of science in clinical nutrition. It was probably like 2 semesters ago. I was like, oh, I actually don't think I want to like be a nutritionist. I love everything I've learned about nutrition. It helps me in my personal life. It helps me in my family and my friends. But just like that one-on-one care isn't really what I'm looking to provide to people. It just seems like everything was really aligned with like policy and policy reform and being a lawyer. And it was actually my partner who was like, I think you would make a really good lawyer. You're really smart. You're really good at explaining things. You're really passionate. You love to deep dive into like whatever you're working on, no matter what it is. And yeah, I started looking into law school. And the more we talked about it and the more we discussed it, I was like, this is what I want to do, but it's not the only thing I want to do. I love
Mhm.
to do so many things. So yeah, I was working at the nonprofit and they invited me on to be the director of operations, and I could not hesitate. I was like, yes, I love this postpartum work and I know that there's so much other things I could help people with as a lawyer. And so yeah, I definitely see like I've dipped into all these my toes into all these buckets, and then I've also dove into a lot of the buckets. I feel like at times maybe I've stretched myself a little bit thin, but I've really been able to dial things back in and be like, okay, instead of 15 buckets that I'm just going to dip into, there's going to be 5 that I deep dive in, and I can manage the 5 and I can love the
Mm.
5 and be passionate about them. So I'm still working on reeling myself into things, but I feel like I'm finding a journey that's really aligned with what I want to do, especially becoming a lawyer, because there's just so many things that I can do with that, and I'll
Yeah.
never get bored of it. And I'll never have to go back to school for it. Like, once I'm a lawyer, and I don't really
Yeah.
have to, I can just do that.
I really liked the little like bucket analogy that you said because manifesting generators like really have the capacity to deep dive into more than one bucket, but they also do tend to maybe spread themselves thin, which is fine. Like that's like part of your energy. But it sounds like you have a really great support system and you're kind of like self-aware on like, oh, maybe I don't need that bucket right now. Like I can, put that one off to the side, save it for later if it's later is a thing. You also have emotional authority, which means that clarity can come feeling through your emotions rather than like a right now kind of knowing with that manifesting generator energy, like using your voice to process your emotions can be really helpful. So speaking with your partner is like kept probably very important for you to just like process
Mhm.
some things. How have you learned to kind of like embrace this process, especially in like some high stakes environment like policy, healthcare, and then like now law school?
I feel like I've done therapy for a really long time, and my therapist is also like an energy worker, and I feel like
Awesome.
that's been so beneficial in my life. Like as a young girl, you kind of get told to like be quiet and like stay in
Mm,
place and not really speak out or speak your mind. Especially going into STEM, it is like a male-driven field, and luckily there are a lot more women who have been innovators and have really pushed through in it. But it's still hard when you're like in a room full of male scientists and you're like, hey, I have an idea and I think it makes a lot of sense. And you're kind of like scared to speak up about it. But doing work through therapy has really given me a lot of confidence. Also, becoming a mom like has just shifted because I am the voice for someone who doesn't have one. And that's just
mm.
made me feel so confident in myself and what I have to say, and getting through like imposter syndrome, to really be like, I know what I know, and I know that I don't know everything. And that gives me so much knowledge and so much insight.
Mm.
And like growing up, it was really hard at times for me to like listen to myself and trust myself. And now I'm at a place in my life where I do, and I have, and I continue to. And I love to yap. It's like my favorite thing. Whether it's like yapping with my friends or yapping with my partner or even like yapping to like my daughter. I'm like, she doesn't understand what I'm saying, but we're gonna have a full chat about it, girl. And yeah, it's just so nice. And I definitely process like through just yapping and talking about it and working out my ideas. And I feel like I can like visualize things when I'm talking about them. And then I can be like, okay, I
Mm,
need to get rid of that, like, or that's no longer serving me. And then
mm,
maybe I write it down and then revisit it in a couple days. But yeah, I love to yap. So I definitely
mm.
think that just building that confidence, being a mom and doing the hard work and therapy has helped me with that.
I was just gonna say the next like little thing about your chart is you have like a triple split definition. So there's like these centers up here that talk to each other, which would be like visualization, like being able to like use energy here in like your throat and sacral space and like speak about it and like visualize at the same time. And then like your emotional center is connected to your root. So you have like these three different swirling energies. Having like another person, because those energies want to communicate with each other. So sometimes like a transit will come by or you'll be in somebody else's aura and you can like pick up on their energy. And then those centers are like, oh yes, like now I can work with this energy and I can communicate with myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's so cool. I would be curious to see your partner's chart and even like your child and
Yeah.
see like kind of what energy they can like bring out in you and then like you in them. One of my favorite things that I just started doing recently is connection chart readings. And yeah, they've just been like really powerful versus a regular like just a chart reading because you can bring in another person or you can just like have it done about the other person. Again, my background's in early childhood ed, so like I would really, really like to expand my like family dynamics bag. But I've done a
Yes.
few couples, and yeah, it's something new that I've been offering, and like I absolutely love just like helping people learn how they can connect and like the energy that they get to play with when they're with this other person. Like it's not your consistent energy, but it's still there all the time for you to
Mhm.
like dip into. So that's really cool that you like are also naturally like connecting this like triple split definition you have with your probably your partner or like your therapist or maybe even your little baby. How old is she?
She's almost a year. She'll be a year at the end of this
Oh,
month. Yeah.
so is she an Aries?
Yeah,
Aries
she
baby?
is an Aries.
Oh,
Yes.
cute. What is your, are you a Libra then or a Scorpio?
No, I'm a Scorpio.
A Scorpio. Okay, awesome. That's a fun little energy dynamic there, even just like with your sun signs. Okay, one more thing I wanted to touch on about your chart is your open ego center. So the ego is like also your heart space, and it's very much like I desire, like I want like this, and having it completely open and undefined kind of can be like a struggle if you're not really tapped into the rest of your authentic energy and you're holding on to energy from other people. It can kind of feel like you have something to prove. Self-worth can be like a main type of thing that just like keeps coming up. Yeah, just kind of like feeling like you have to prove yourself to other people when that energy is more meant to flow through you and like feel it, release it. Like that's not yours to play with. So, have you ever felt pressure to prove your expertise, especially in a male-dominated industry?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's like been a very common theme in my life. I have such a passion for learning. It's always been my safe space. It's always been where I can recede to when things are tough. More recently, I feel like maybe there is less of that, but for so long, it was always just like, but I know this. I've taken these classes and I have this certification, and I would really just try to be like, okay, but like I'm the expert and I know all of these things, and really just try to prove myself and my expertise in things. And more recently, I have really just been trying to like let that go and be like, I don't have to prove how smart I am to people. I know what I know, and it's also not my job to teach people things they're not willing to learn.
Mm.
So I can't just sit there and scream at the abyss and just hope that if I explain it in 20 different ways, someone will understand it, or to explain to them my background and what I know and where that's coming from and why I'm the expert. It's like I will present the information and they can take it or leave it, because I do know things and I also know that I don't know everything. And I am willing to learn, but I'm not going to try to prove myself to people, because I know what I'm worth and I know what I have to offer to the table, and people can
Mm.
take it or they can leave it. And I feel like the less I kind of let go of that expectation or that like pressure to really prove myself to others, people are like, they like invite me into the spaces and they're like, hey, like,
Mm.
why don't you come and do this? Or you have so much you've offered to the table, and why don't you come and offer more? And I'm like, okay, I can do that. Like,
Uh, that's awesome
yeah.
that you've like naturally tapped into that energy. It seems like that with what you do and kind of just like the support system that you have, trusting yourself and like moving through life how you have, you're definitely like a manifesting generator that's like living by their design, and your aura is probably just like very big and welcoming and sparkly. So that's awesome. Let's kind of move into what you do with like the postpartum project. I know you touched on it earlier, but describe like a little overview and like the mission behind the postpartum project and then your part that you play with the postpartum project.
The Postpartum Project is a nonprofit based here in Maine, and we work with rural communities in York and Oxford County. And our mission is to bring in-home postpartum care to rural families. Doing that, we like really work to bridge the gap in postpartum care. My specific role is I'm the director of operations. So I run parent support groups twice a month where we get together. There's like a little education in the beginning. We have guest speakers come in. Sometimes I speak about things. It's not only to just really educate, but it's also to provide resources. So I've done a class on postpartum mood disorders where I provided telehealth services to families, signs to look out for postpartum mood disorders. I've done nutrition plans for families, and they're free of charge, so anyone can come to them. And then I'm just gonna go check on my daughter real quick.
Oh yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to come in here? Hi,
Hi.
she's just gonna join us for a second. She bumped her
Oh,
nose.
you just need a little mommy time. I
Oh
heard her
yes,
try to
babe.
say hi right away. Hi.
Oh yeah, she FaceTimes my little sister, so she like loves to see people. Yeah,
Aw.
mama, mama. So yeah, my role is I run these parent support groups twice a month, which are so helpful to parents. We provide education and just like a place for families to really get together and build their community, let their kids play, and just like be able to get together because that's like a really hard thing to do sometimes. And they're indoor spaces, so the weather, it doesn't matter. We're always there.
Mm.
And sometimes we get one family, sometimes we get 10 families, but we always host them and we always offer that space. I also do the logistics of applying to different grants and helping with just like that entire process. I help create a budget. So part of what we do is we pay for in-home doula, postpartum doula care for rural families. So it's all based on like income and a lottery system. So we pick different families out of our lottery system and they get 24 hours of postpartum doula care that's covered through us. We connect them with a huge list of postpartum doulas we have. They interview the doulas, they pick what's best for them, and we just like provide the funding for that. I also set up the website. So I run the website. I keep up on in the news. And then on top of that, we also stay up to date on legislation and we help advocate for different legislation, whether it be insurance is covering postpartum doula care. So yeah, I kind of do a lot of different things. At the end of the day, it's all just really helping families and providing care and access to care for families in rural communities specifically. The state of Maine has had 9 birthing centers closed down since 2015. And it's getting harder and harder for families to not only give birth, but to also get support after birth. Some
Mm.
families drive up to 2 hours to local birthing
Wow.
centers, which can be really hard.
Right. Like, what if you don't have that time? Like, if you're not prepared and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm in labor. Or like, would this be like postpartum care too? So like they're taking their child with them in the car for 2 hours?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Like it leads to people not only not receiving postpartum care, but also decreasing the prenatal care that they're getting. The
Mm-hmm.
United States is a developed country, and we have one of the highest maternal mortality rates. And with the increase in closures of maternity centers, we're seeing a huge rise in postpartum mood disorders like depression, anxiety. Maternal mortality encompasses everything from mortality during pregnancy, during birth, and then also postpartum. And so when we have these long distances to travel or we have this lack of access to care, we just see like unfortunately a lot more maternal mortality. And we also see a huge spike in planned C-sections and inductions, which raise maternal mortality and raise the chances of complications postpartum.
Mm.
So it's just it all really entangles in and it's really really unfortunate this trend that we're currently seeing, especially being like one of the richest countries in the world, being
Right.
such a developed country. It's really unfortunate.
Like we're supposed to be a developed country, but there are so many things that like systemically is set up for a certain like person that lives in the
Mhm.
United States and like it's not all women. Like everything here is like made for like rich white men. Like systemically, what shifts would you want to see or think need to happen to like prioritize, especially like in the mental health realm, like survival rate of mothers?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are like a few things that we really need to see in order to shift this narrative. One of the biggest ones is just a cultural shift. We need to start prioritizing women and we also need to start prioritizing the family dynamic, whatever that dynamic looks like, because the men experience postpartum depression as well. And a lot of people don't think of it that way. Whatever the family dynamic is, we need to bring community back into that, make it okay to ask for help, to not assume that when somebody's staying home, whether it's the mother or the father, that because they're staying home, their job is easy. We need to make places where families and, like again, whatever that dynamic looks like, families can get together and they can talk to each other and they can support each other. On top of that, we need huge policy reform due to like the low income in rural communities specifically, because that's what I focus on, but also in communities of color we need to push for Medicaid to cover not only regular OBs, but midwives and doulas. We need that coverage. We need to push and force privatized insurance to also cover these services in order to see a decrease in maternal mortality. We need to get rid of the stigma around forced induction. We need to stop wanting women to be induced, stop making it seem like maybe C-sections are an easy way out, or they're easier, or they're planned for. And in doing that, we would see a huge decrease in maternal mortality. Countries that have some of the best, by best, I mean the lowest maternal mortality rates, are midwife driven countries where midwifery is the golden standard for maternal care, prenatal and postnatal. And we don't have that in America. We have a very pharmaceutically driven, doctor driven healthcare system when it comes to maternal care. And we really need to shift culturally away from that. We don't need men in the space trying to dictate how that looks and how that works. The cultural shift, and then also just the policy shift that we need to see. We need more funding to go towards women's research. We need more funding towards improved outcomes. And yeah, we need to really start prioritizing the entirety of why people don't seek care, all the social determinants of health, where they live, their income levels, their skepticism of doctors, the skepticism of midwives. Just we need to address all of them, and that's money and that's policy.
Mm.
Those are some things we really need to see.
Wow, I'm hearing that there's like obviously a lot of things that need to change, and it might be really difficult, especially with like who we have as our president right now, and like all of the things that he's like his agenda and what he's trying to do is like really backwards and messed up, and like yeah, I don't want to like be too like negative about the situation, but it's like this is serious, and like it can be really like it's scary like
Mm-hmm.
what some things that like are getting passed. Like I saw you just share on your story like Apple like low key just like took off International Women's Day on their calendar. I saw recently too, like whoever was in charge of this, like he approved, like whoever approved this information about birth control, abortions, postnatal care, like all of this stuff for women's health is like fully deleted, like a whole like .org website, like fully just like scraped
Mm-hmm.
off the internet.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's also so sad. Like they've gotten rid of funding. If you use the terms woman or women, like you will lose
Yeah,
federal funding in that research, and that's so harmful. It's so harmful for a
it
huge population
is.
of the country. Like people don't think individually that they can make change, but you really can. Like writing and calling your local legislation, they do keep track of that. I know it seems very redundant in the current landscape and climate of politics, but it is really important to continue to advocate for change, to lobby and to show up and to call and to write letters and to write emails and just to continue to put voices and people on the ground to push for change. Because if we're all quiet, it's nothing will change, nothing will get better.
So, as you're moving through law school, becoming a lawyer, what would be like your main focus on like where you would take your practice in the future with your law degree and like where you're going with everything?
So my hope is to really focus on public interest law, and that encompasses so many things. Public defenders are public interest. Working with nonprofit is public interest. Public policy specifically. I would probably start my practice out working with nonprofits. I really love nonprofits, and a lot of times they're grassroots, they're self-funded, and to be able to donate my time and expertise to help them out would be really amazing. I would like to be able to transform in my law degree into more public policy. I love policy reform. It's something at first I found really redundant and boring. But the more I got into it and the more I was in the nitty and gritty of my courses of advocating for change, of helping make change happen, I love it. I don't know how long I would do like be in the public sector, but I hope to be in it for a while before I went private with anything.
Hmm.
I do love that aspect. Maine is actually the only state that doesn't have public defenders, and the law school I want to go to is working really hard on changing that. Yeah, so definitely public interest policy, just helping people make change and navigate the legalities of it all, because legalese is a real thing and it gets super confusing.
Yeah.
So however I can help people who wouldn't normally be able to receive that help due to barriers.
Well, I'm excited to like follow your journey into this whole like new realm of things. But it sounds like you're going to be able to like tie in your current background with everything that you're learning about right now. Kind of like to wrap things up, what would be one small impactful action to support better postpartum care in their own communities?
One small act that every single person can do is to really show up for the families in their lives. That could be in a variety of ways. It could be a text message, dropping off a meal, offering to come over and pick up or do the dishes or fold some laundry, going to the park with a family, going on a walk with them. That's something that every person can do. They can show up for the families in their lives. Something that is just as important is just advocating for that policy change, pushing for paid maternity leave and paternity leave, for expanded coverage, for women-centered care, even adopted families. We need to push for the policy reform, but on an individual level, just showing up for the families, the people in your life who have kids, because it's hard being a parent and you lose little parts of you, and a lot of people don't have anyone to check in on them.
And like children are the future, like they're gonna be the ones taking care of this planet. So connecting with the postpartum project, how can people support the postpartum project or how can they get involved with what you guys do?
So we have an Instagram at the postpartumproject.me. Our website is also the postpartumproject.me. We are self-funded right now, so we do have a donation page on our website. Don't charge any fees to nonprofits to pull the money out, which is amazing and a blessing. So you can donate if you have the means to. Yeah, and then just like interacting, like sharing, commenting, just like pushing our information in the algorithm. And yeah, those are like the best ways to really support us in our mission.
Okay, thank you. For you personally, where can people find you, follow your work and your journey, and stay connected?
So I'm on Instagram at Dessi.Berry, DESSI.BERRY. And yeah, I share a lot of things. There's a lot of overlap between there and the Postpartum Project's Instagram because I share everything, but also I advocate for a lot of different types of reform on my personal page. Right now, I really only do Instagram. I am working on a podcast, but that won't be out for a little
Awesome.
bit. So yeah, just stay tuned for that. And you can find me on Instagram and same thing, like, comment, share, DM me. I get back to people and I love helping people with anything I can. So
Awesome. Oh, thank you for sharing, and I'll let you know when this one's shared. But I would love to come on to yours whenever
yes.
you have yours ready for like recording and whatever. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I should have it going at like the beginning of April. It's called the Rooted Perspective. So I just like am interviewing people who are in just any form of anything that they do and just getting really to like the root cause, whether it be like the root cause of why we act the way that we act or the root
Mm,
cause of why maternity care is as poor as it is, and just whatever their specialty is, we're just focusing on the root cause that got them there or is pushing what they are involved in. And yeah, once I have that up, I would love to have you on because I think it would be really amazing.
yeah, definitely love that. Okay, thank you for coming. I'm gonna stop the recording. But
Okay.
yeah.